the market is slowly sort of tightening, shall we say, to some extent, because, we have the sanctions on Venezuela, we have sanctions on Iran. So if you actually even look at the physical crude oil markets right now, they're not as oversupplied as they were a few months ago. So on one level, I think, maybe the market is not so sure that it's going to be extremely oversupplied like, some of the forecasts of the IEA today.
Yeah, and there's another key thing in this report, and I don't want to get too in the weeds, or I guess in the oil, if you will, which is the kind of oil that's not going to be available, because Venezuela, their production continues to drop. It's probably going to go below 1 million barrels a day very soon if it's not there already. And their oil, very thick, kind of sludgy, used a lot in diesel fuel in the United States. Is a bigger worry maybe, Eklavya, not how much total oil there is, but how much of each kind there is and where it goes?
Most definitely. So one of the things that the IEA pointed out, and this has been on the market for quite a while, so it was good to see this issue highlighted. The crude quality and not quantity will be an issue moving forward. The US, as we know, produces mainly light sweet crude, while most of the tightening of supplies, Iran, even the OPEC cuts, even Alberta in Canada, production cuts there, and Venezuela, all of them produce what you call sort of heavy sour crude. So in a way, you have a bit of a divergence on the oil markets. So the light sweet crude is oversupplied while it's quite tight on the heavy sour market. And this actually has an implication for the refiners, because the refiners have been mainly used to a very sort of heavy sour barrel, because that normally is cheaper and it's easier to process. And the refineries in the Gulf Coast, China and India, particularly like the heavy crude.
What do you think is the biggest risk to the oil market this year, Eklavya?
Well, I think we'll have to wait and watch with Iran and Venezuela and how sort of things pan out there, whether there will be an extension of waivers, whether the oil that Venezuela cannot sell to the US, will that definitely go to India and China? So I think the supply demand risk is still there. Now, interestingly, on the IEA, they've kept the oil demand forecast unchanged at 1.4 million barrels per day. This, interestingly, is higher than what they had last year. Last year, they said oil demand growth was 1.3 million barrels per day. So on one level, they're actually a bit more bullish on the 2019 demand growth because of lower prices and increased petrochemical projects in China and the US. So I would say the supply risk is still very much, I would say, one of the biggest risks on the oil market currently.